This is the Shaver Prep Football Podcast, Episode 1. I'm Randy Shaver. I worked 41 years at Care TV in the Twin Cities, and during that time, I covered high school football on a show called the Prep Sports Extra. High school football is a passion of mine, and for so many reasons. I love the competition, I love the community, I love the lessons that are learned from the game. I love the grind of the game, and most of all, I love the people who are involved in the game, both on the field and off. The podcast will center on Minnesota prep football, but hopefully it will be much more than that for the players and coaches. My goal is to bring on guests who will inform, enlighten, and leave you with some things to think about as you begin your football journey in earnest. Yeah, we're going to preview the big games. We're going to recap what happened the Friday and Saturday before, the Thursday before. We're going to talk to the playmakers. We're going to talk to the keepers of the game, but we're going to bring you the best from Minnesota that played football in the state and played for the state. And hopefully that will broaden the scope and the appeal of this podcast. For example, in a few minutes, Vikings Hall of Fame football player John Randle will be here to talk about his football journey. If you don't know his story, I promise you, you will be blown away. But my first guest, my very first guest, is a living legend in Minnesota prep football for so many reasons. If you want insight to what makes a player, a coach, a fan great in this game, then pay attention to Becker's Dwight Lundeen. Well, Dwight Lundeen is one of the living legends of Minnesota high school football in Minnesota. We've known each other a long, long time. He is starting year number 55 as the head coach at Becker High School this fall. Here we are, late July, Coach. You're a few weeks away from practice opening up. What does this feel like for you? When you sit here in late July, you've had many late Julys as you anticipate two-a-day practices and the start of another season. What goes through your head this time of year?
Well, I think when I don't feel the way I feel now, I know it'll be time to get out, but I'm wired. This is something I'm very passionate about. We put a lot of time and effort into it, and I really enjoy that part. The 7-on-7 stuff was just wrapping up. Working on a quarterback is always my main job as the head coach. I am the quarterback coach. I think that's a good combination when the head coach is kind of understanding the whole thing. So I've been doing that, and no, I'm anxious. We have a week of family vacation coming up, and I know that the last Thursday, Friday of that week, I'm antsy. So I got to get back to Becker, and we're kicking off on Monday. So yeah, I really enjoy this part. It's not a burden to me. I'm not dreading anything. I have a lot of energy to put into that.
Year 55, and that's what he sounds like because he's excited to coach again. When you get into two-a-days, which start on August 12th, when you get into practice, what are the things that you look for from your team when practice begins? You've seen them probably off and on all summer. You've had a few practices in the summer, but what are you looking for specifically from your team?
I think my goal every year is to develop team. I mean, we have to come together. It's not individuals that win football games, it's team. And I know that's maybe an overstated by coaches, but I honestly work on that a lot. Everything we do is about team.
How do you do that?
Well, it's never about you and it's never about me. It's about us. And that is emphasized continuously in every drill, in everything that we do. It's always about team. And the sooner I can get them on that same page, the better we're going to be, the quicker we're going to be the team that we need to be.
So Dwight has 399 wins, 167 losses, 3 ties in his career. You're a win away from the milestone of 400. I asked Mike Malin, who is the winningest coach currently in Minnesota at Verndale. He has 432 wins. When you finally got to 400, what did that feel like? And he said that was a milestone. I felt like that was a milestone. You open up against Hill Murray on Thursday night, the 29th. If you get that 400th win that night, what will that feel like for you?
I think each one of those big numbers has been pretty significant. 100 to me was really a major accomplishment. We
Do you
were,
remember that?
yes, absolutely. We were, I still wasn't 500 when I was 100. I had more losses than wins. We started out, we were really small. I was the head coach, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, line coach. I was it. And it was some tough times there, but I really learned the game and I learned to deal with kids, I think, better. It was a great experience for me. And I also learned it's okay to lose. I mean, you got to be, that's part of life. I mean, I want to teach my kids that we can't win every game. Failure is okay. It's a game, it's a game, it's a game. 100 was something, 200 got to be a little special, 300 was fun. We had a big celebration. We had a celebration even before the game because we were so sure we were going to win. So that was really not good. We had speakers and we had
Oh
T-shirts.
my gosh.
We had T-shirts.
That does not sound like you.
It was one of those deals where our opponent, everybody wanted, it was the first game again, 300, and that was kind of a milestone. They had a banner made up, and we did it, and of course everything worked out. 400.
So do you have plans for 400?
Well, yes, we do. We're going to invite every kid that's ever played at Becker High School back as an alumni.
Wow.
Come back to the game, and we're going to introduce you at halftime. So
All of them.
everyone,
It'll take the entire halftime.
well, I hope so. So all the ones that played in the 70s are going to be on the 10-yard line. The 80s, the 85s, the 90s, the 2000s,
That is
all the way down.
spectacular.
Okay? So now, if we play the game and it doesn't go really well, we're just going to say thank you for being a part of this. But then if we win that, we can have a little celebration afterwards and say, thank you, each one of you. Randy, you had a part of this 400.
Yeah.
This isn't a Dwight Lundeen thing.
Yeah.
This was everybody that's played here has been a part of 400. So that's what we're working on, and we think it can be a very special night. And in front of the kids, as much as I try not to emphasize it or talk about it, it's there. I mean, it's the elephant in the room all the time. It's always there.
So just to put all of this in perspective, Dwight was 22 years old in 1970 when he started the football program at Becker. He's the only head coach they've ever had over that course of time. How many players do you think, do you even have an idea of the total number of players that you've coached over the years?
Yeah, you could probably figure out fairly close. I have a chart of every year that we've ever had it, but it is pretty unique. That doesn't happen very often.
3 generations? Have you coached 3 generations?
Oh, yeah. I have kids now that I had your grandpa, I had your dad, and I've got you. You're not getting away with anything. I know the gene pool really well. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But you could kind of count it out, but I hope we have a great turnout and people that had a part of that start. And even though there wasn't a lot of wins, there was a part of the tradition that we built, and hope they can all feel a good part of that.
I want to talk about your philosophy of separating goals from purpose in a second. But I asked Mike Malin this question, and I'm going to ask you, because you both are similar. 55 plus years coaching at one school, started the program, all of that. And I know how much you care about kids and helping them be better people. That's a big part of your philosophy. But early on, did that philosophy automatically was there when you started? Or did you kind of, as a young guy, say, I need to find a way to win a little bit here to get this program established? Did you maybe, I guess my question is, did you maybe care a little bit more about wins early, 1970s on, just to establish things? And then your philosophy of, purpose kind of established itself after that?
Yeah, I really do. I think when starting that way, I was looking at a schedule, trying to figure out
where the
who I
wins
could
are.
possibly schedule to beat them. Now it's the absolute opposite.
Yes.
Give me somebody that's going to give me a really good game, and win or lose, our kids are going to get better. The crowds are going to love it.
Yeah.
And that's changed a lot. But yes, I remember trying to find someone, a weaker schedule, a weaker opponent, to try to get that W so that you can build off of that. And that was some of the most coaching minutes that I spent trying to get a kid at that level to play well enough to win a game, where now I've got so many good assistants and
Right.
all of this that they can help me get to that point, where back then it was pretty much a one-man show. But yeah, I honestly, if I'm going to build this program to what I want it to be, you've got to be winning. Otherwise, you're going to be out. They're going to ask you to move on. Absolutely.
Yeah. So your big thing now is you talk a lot about purpose, what your purpose is as a coach. Will you explain that philosophy?
You know, I get asked, because you win a lot of games, you get asked to talk around the
Yep.
5-state area and nationally as well.
Yep.
And I always start out with culture. And some people like to listen to that, others don't. But once you've developed a culture of these kids are going to run through the wall for you, that then you can teach them the X's and O's. You have to have the X's and O's part of it. But to me, if you're going to stay in it, you have to really totally commit to what your goal is and what your purpose. And the purpose is to impact young people. And what my record is, you're reading off them now. Very, very few people know what my record is. I have a wonderful wife. Love that lady. She doesn't know how many wins I have. She doesn't care, and she shouldn't care. That isn't important. But and if you're going to have that scoreboard define your happiness after a game, it'll kill you. I mean, you have some of the toughest losses ever. You know, how did we possibly lose that? You just can't come back. But it's always, what was the purpose of us doing that? And maybe a word that kind of comes back more now as I get older is compassion. I mean, I talk to my coaches about that a lot. If you're a compassionate person, you can love people and you can care for people in a way that can cause people to really, really enjoy and be safe in your environment if you're compassionate. And it doesn't sit well with most coaches. Most coaches don't want to be compassionate. It seems like it's soft. I don't think it's soft. I think it's hard. You have to love some kids that are really, really hard to love. But I think the compassion part of it has grown in my life, my knowledge, and I keep trying to get better every year. And but the compassion part of it, I think, has kind of brought me to a point where that culture, and I understand it better than I did back when I was 22.
I guess I can relate to that only in the sense that some of the best coaches I ever had in my life were coaches who were tough on me, but would also put their arm around me and say, "Hey, I love you." You know, that kind of feeling that you got from that coach, that A, you could trust them, and B, that they cared about you. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't tell the team that I love them. And some of it, the first time they're in the program, Randy, I love you. What? They've never heard that before, ever, even at home, which is sad. But that's what they're dealing with. But this is the culture that we want to have from the coaches, from me to them as well.
So Dwight Lundeen is one of the very few coaches in the state of Minnesota who has their stadium actually named after you. This happened last year, Dwight Lundeen Stadium. The Rosbergs at Hutchinson have their name on the stadium. That was a special night. That was a special moment for you, I know. Is it weird now walking out going, I'm going to walk out to Dwight Lundeen Stadium for practice?
No, I've had that rush a few times.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have.
Yeah.
I help with girls lacrosse. I'm the goalie coach. I don't know anything about lacrosse, but my granddaughter was playing, so I was going to help
you.
out. Yeah, it was good. It was a good experience for me. I got fired. I'm done. No, I resigned. I resigned. Our whole staff is done, but that's okay. Somebody else can take it on. But going out there in the first lacrosse practice, on Dwight Lundeen Stadium, and the kids are commenting about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was special. And then we throw Wednesday mornings during the January, February, March. We just have it usually in the field house.
Yeah.
Well, there was a March morning that was about 50 degrees outside on the 50-yard line on Dwight Lundeen Stadium doing passing again. I just said, hey, guys, this is really, really meaningful. It did. It hit me right there that, yeah, it was one of those very special nights. I had almost everybody in my family there and,
There
the
was.
grandkids and a lot of alumni and great speakers. And it was a very special night.
Yeah. So you've coached so many kids over the years. Is there one piece of advice that you've given to a player that you see them years later? They're an adult now. Maybe they have kids there's just something that you felt that maybe they said to you, Coach, thank you for, whatever you said to them that changed the course of their life in a lot of ways. Is there a person, a moment, an example that you can give us?
Probably quite a few, actually. I'll start with one that probably isn't real impactful, but talked to a young man a few days ago, and I said, what are you doing now? He said, I'm working as an executive up in St. Cloud. And I said, well, congratulations. He graduated maybe 10 years ago. And I said, well, how'd you get the job? And he said, I interviewed with a whole bunch of people, and I got the job. And later they told me that when I said that I was going to be 15 minutes early on every meeting, because that's what I learned in Becker football. He said, that's why they said they gave me the job, because I'll never be late. I'll be 15 minutes. Well, when we have practice, which we call our happy hour, everybody's sprinting out there. And they know we're going to start a little early, but we're all going to be on time, and we're going to have a lot of fun in the next 2 hours. So that'd be one example. The other example is I have a young man, his dad had brain cancer, and he died as an 8th grader. And he was one of my quarterbacks, so we were really close. And so his junior year, we went on a tour. Dad couldn't take him, so I took him. And we went to Purdue. We went to Notre Dame. We went to Ohio State. We went to Michigan. And the Gophers were recruiting him.
You did this with this young guy.
With this guy. And so we did. They were allowed tryouts. He was throwing to kids. And so finally we went to Purdue. And Gordy Shaw was his recruiter from the Gophers. And it wasn't quite the truth, but they were very close. And we called Gordy and we said, well, Purdue wants him to come here. So we're ready to sign here. And Gordy says, nah, we offer you full ride. Come to Minnesota. And so he remembers that to this day, that the things that we did with him in kind of replacing his father in that moment of his life where something very important happened with him, that he's now a rancher in Montana. We just visited him, went out of Yellowstone up into Montana. A great young man, two lovely daughters, and is living the life. I mean, just wonderful. He still talks about that. So yeah, I'm guessing there's quite a few things that you've invested in something that is very important. And it's a difficult job because you don't get that very often. I mean, I like cutting wood. I used to. And when you get done and there's a cord of wood, hey, that looks pretty nice. We don't see that cord of wood when kids, it's just, it could be a year from now, it could be 10 years from now, but you're never going to stop investing that time and effort into that.
I hear that a lot from coaches who say the impact that I'm making on kids, I probably won't see that truly for 5, 10, 15 years down the road. When they come back and they have a family and they're successful and they say thank you. And that's when I realize that I've done some things that are pretty important in my life. There are coaches out there that are watching this right now who have so much respect for you, but there's also some young coaches out there that are just starting. They're just starting out in their career, whether they're assistants or head coaches. Give me 3 things that they can use, 3 pieces of advice as from your years of experience as a coach that will help them be better coaches. What would you say those 3 things are?
If you're the head coach, maybe just start with this, that surround yourself with really good people. You were very successful, Channel 11, because you surrounded yourself with some really good people. Julie Nelson, wow. I got to meet her and spend some time with her. She is a gem. And I always thought that that's just who she was,
Right.
and all the people that you had, the Boyd Hoopers and those kind of people that you surrounded yourself with helped you be successful. So don't do it alone. Okay. So find people that you can trust that will help you through that process. No shortcuts in this business. There are no secret plays. Draw up your secret play that always works. I have no secret plays. You find something that it can work, and if it doesn't work on that play, you know how to fix it. If you don't know how to fix it, don't run that play, because then it's useless. You're just hunting and poking around, but you've got to come up with something, whether it's going to be a pass play or running. I don't care what you do, but know how to fix it if it doesn't work, and then I can go from there. So really establish what you know.
Yeah.
And then last one would be probably the purpose and the goals. If your goal is to win the game, which it should be, but if you don't, your purpose is still impacting the kids in your school. Right or wrong, head football coach has a position in Becker, in most communities, that is maybe put on a pedestal more than it should be. But you try to impact the school, you try to impact the student body, you impact your kids and your community. And I really feel that that's been a big part of Becker football. I refer to it quite often as the front porch of Becker, that it's a place where you feel welcome and you feel safe. And you come there whether you want to watch football or not, but this is the front porch. And you've been there before, and
Yes.
huge crowds.
Yeah.
And they're very supportive, and win or lose, we come out on the field afterwards and we visit, and it's just a bonding thing.
It's community.
Community.
Yeah.
And that's who the head football coach is. And if you don't like that, it's probably not going to be a good spot for you. So you need to embellish that, okay?
Yeah.
Embrace it,
Yeah.
and be a part of that community, and then you'll be successful.
Last question, and we've talked about this before, but here you are. What are you, 75, 76? What are you right
Thank
now?
you. 77.
77. Here you are, 77, and you still love what you do. You still are passionate about it. Is it when you realize it's time to go, is it when you don't love practice, when you don't love the grind anymore, when the grind's too much? Have you kind of in your mind, I don't know, have you thought about what that day will feel like when you know that it's time?
I think the part that I think would separate me from my position would be the connect with the kids.
Yeah.
If I ever think I lose that, I'm out. Like you were talked about when we started July, I'm excited about it. Yeah. We have X amount of days to get ready and hit the road running, and I've got a few things to do, but it's not a chore. All the filming and getting all that stuff done every year is a big chore. But if I don't feel the connect with the kids, I would get out. If I can't look at every one of the kids right in the eye, and they're trusting me and I'm trusting them, and there's a connect there. And Pam and I are very conscious of going to basketball games and volleyball games and track meets and baseball, and that staying the connect with the student body. And
It's
to
not
me,
just football. It's
not
everything.
just football, the whole community that's important. And then that student body, that whatever their theme is that night, they're crazy over there and they're doing their thing, and I enjoy it. Yeah.
Well, I wish you nothing but good luck. Again, he's going for win number 400 Thursday night, August 29th against Hill Murray at Becker. If you get to Becker for the game, get there early because the pork chops are amazing. Coach Lundeen, it's
Thank
always
you.
a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dwight.
Best of luck.
Thank you. We'll be right back. John Randle's football journey could be easily a movie, and it would have many parts to it that you would find extremely interesting. Thank you, John, for being here. I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
And your football journey is so interesting, but your life journey is even more incredible. For people who don't know, you grew up in Mumford, Texas.
Mhm.
Describe the house that you grew up in.
Uh, it was a very unusual house. I actually grew up on an old plantation. So all the houses were all white. We had tin roofs, and ours was like a 3-room. There was kind of like a bedroom, a living room, and then kind of a kitchen. So me and my 2 older brothers and my mom, no AC, no indoor water, um, kind of a wooden floor, um, the bare bones. It was very small. Um, I think as I sit and I think about it now, it's probably about the size of a 2-car garage. And but there was a lot of love in that house, a lot of laughter, and many a nights us just sitting around, and me and my 2 older brothers all sleeping in the same bed, but just getting close to each other. But to me, it was normal. I didn't think other people had or lived a better lifestyle,
Yeah.
but I just thought it was just a normal way.
I heard you describe it once as you could put your arms out and touch the walls on both sides.
Well, in the bedroom, you could probably kind of do that. The we call it the living room, was kind of a little bit bigger. The kitchen, for sure, the kitchen was so small. We had a table, like a kitchen table, but we could only have one chair because there was a refrigerator to the left of it. So getting around it was very hard and awkward, but it was. I'm sitting there thinking about it. The kitchen was a add-on to this house. I think maybe before I was born, but it was a little add-on. But the roof, anytime there was thunder or hard rain, stuff was come out the roof on the floor.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it was very difficult though.
So John grows up in that environment in Mumford, Texas. You play high school football at Hearn High School, right? In
Right.
Texas. At the time that you were in high school, how big were you? Were you highly recruited? What was the story of John Randle in high school?
High school, our coaches were we had two we had like 3 or 4 coaches, and actually one of them, his daughter ended up marrying Mike Evans, the tight end for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But our 3 main coaches, there was Robert Earl Davis and his brother Billy Ray Davis. So yeah, and they were farmers. So they would come to practice wearing, like Lee jeans, an old plaid shirt, cowboy boots, but they really didn't know how to coach. They just said, play hard. And they ran the crap out of it. I mean, we would do in Texas heat, run like 2 miles, do up down, which is you run 5 yards, you jump up, you go back down another 5 yards. And we didn't have technique. And I remember going into some games in high school, and they were like, just take your forearm and just hit him in the mouth. Like some old country boy. You just hit him in the mouth. That's gonna lay a lick on him. And I knew by some of the guys I played against that I'm like, we could have been better, but we just didn't have, like I said, the technique. So we would win our high school against our rivals and all that, but when we got in the playoffs, we just went this was just horrible. But the coaching, I don't want to say anything negative about them because they were just like the Billy Ray Davis. He taught driver's ed. I know I can't make this stuff up, but he taught driver's ed, and then he taught American history because I love history. So I would sit in his class and we just talk about history, and he just, this big burly guy, and just kind of like, hey guy, you boys gonna have a hell of a game this week, boy. I can tell. It was like Andy Griffith was my coach. If that people can resonate to that.
So you go from high school to Texas A&I via another school. How in the world, if that's what you grew up with in high school football, how did you end up getting, in college to play football?
Yeah. My brother who played who was kind of played at Baylor, um, my brother was more confident than me in football. I was the youngest, and high school for me or junior high was learning that I had bigger hands, I had bigger feet. So my confidence wasn't really there. So when I was getting ready to go to Texas A&I, one of my coaches had played college ball with my brother at Baylor, and he convinced me to come to Texas A&I, and didn't know much about Texas A&I. I just knew it was in South Texas. It was extremely hot there, and but my mom and dad actually took me to a bus depot in College Station, which is about 20 miles away. I got on a bus at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock a.m. I didn't make it to Texas A&I until 9 p.m. that night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I was on the bus, but football to me kind of gave me I would say a brotherhood, because there was other guys who had big hands, big feet, and I fit in.
Yeah.
So going to Texas A&I, I had one of my coaches who basically told me this is a place for me, and he actually, I think about my senior year of college, he had left and started running his wife's feed store. So I know I can't make this stuff up. That's why a lot of times I keep all this stuff to myself. But yeah, he was one of the first coaches though that I told him that I wouldn't be where I was at without him. And he was one of the first coaches that told me, he always had these little cliches, which is, why walk when you can run? And something like, if you think about it, you won't. If you don't think about it, it never will happen. So he kind of instilled that in my head, and I appreciate it. And I actually talked to him. His name is Keith Waters. I talk to him probably at least once a month on social media.
Yeah.
Or we texting, or he's a cigar guy, so I send him cigars. He sends me cigars, and he was there when I needed it, and I am lucky to have had him in my life.
So I give you all of this background because this man ends up in the NFL Hall of Fame. And now you know where he started. Now you know how it all began. Undersized, not drafted in the NFL out of college,
right.
Not drafted. So John Randle has turned out to be one of the greatest undrafted football players to ever make the NFL Hall of Fame. 6'1", 245,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a story that I read where the Vikings told you, we will draft you, but you have to weigh 250 pounds.
No,
Something like that.
Yeah, what they told me was they had the defense coordinator, Floyd Peters, said, you remember Floyd?
I do.
That
absolutely.
old raspy voice?
Yes.
He reminded me of somebody like Patton. He told me, he goes, he only 242 or something like that. And you're only 242, chop, chop. You need to be bigger, chop, chop. And I'm like, what is chop, chop? And which I guess he found that insulting to me. So he said, I don't like rookies.
Yep.
I don't like these rookies. But he told me, if you can come back and you're around 250, I may allow you to go to training camp. And so that was in my head. I got to get to 250. Going back to Texas, it's hot. I'm trying to, work out and stuff, and I'm starting to lose more weight. And I'm like, I'm trying to just wrap my mind around, like, I can't figure this out. But we came back up for mini camp, and my roommate name is William Kursky, who he was a linebacker. And so he and I went over to Southtown Mall Remember those South
Oh,
Town?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We went over there. We were walking around and happened to go in the Ace Hardware store. Just walking around, and this guy was working in there, was telling us about the chains, and he goes, "Yeah, that's 20 pounds, that's 30. That there's about 10 pounds." And I'm like, 10 pounds? He goes, "Yeah, you throw it over your shoulder, 10 pounds." And so William and I looked at each other. I'm like, "Hey, we could get a padlock." So we're two back there just messing around and put it together. And the guy went up front, cut it, and I took it to the Vikings practice facility.
And you wore it
Yeah.
when you got weighed
Yeah. So what I did was
to make 250.
to make 250. And I had my sweatpants over it. And the weight coach at the time was like, "Keep it on, maybe to add a pound or two to your weight." And I get up there and he went, 251. I'm like, yeah. I'm trying to look confident, like, yeah, what you think, man? And he get your ass off the damn scale. And I got off, and I just was like, went over to William. William heard it, and William and I was just like, "Man, you got it. And next thing you know, Floyd Peters comes down there smoking his cigarette, looking at me. I don't effing believe that you're 250, but he says 250. And just shook his head, and man.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history.
So you get out there, you start playing, and John Randle has an amazing career. 14 years in the NFL.
Yeah, but here's a funny story for you, though. Not many people know this, but Paul Wiggins was my defensive line coach, and Paul, man, he's the one who kept me around. And first game, he goes, "Hate to tell you, but you're not going to play. You're just going to sit on the bench. You're going to play special teams." "Okay." I'm like, "Yes, sir." I'm like, little kid, I got my mouthpiece there, like, "Yes, sir, yes, sir." And he goes, "I'll never call you to go in the game. So don't ever look at me and see me say to you go in the game." So we go to Philadelphia, Monday Night Football, and William Kursky, my roommate, is telling me he's got a friend in Philadelphia. I'm like, "Okay, great." He goes, "He's going to call the room looking for me." I'm like, "All right." So all of a sudden the phone rings. I pick it up, and the guy go, "Hey, is Bug there?" I go, "Who? Bug?" Because they always said you get prank phone calls. I'm like, I put it down. William goes, "Who was calling?" I said, "Man, somebody talking about some bug." He goes, "Man, that's my cousin." And lo and behold, we go downstairs, and the only person I see in the lobby is Charles Barkley. And William goes, "Pig," and he goes, "Bug." And I'm like, what? But that was the first encounter with Charles Barkley, with William Kursky. But we get in Philadelphia, it's a Monday night game, and I'm just, it's Monday night. I'm like, maybe somebody will see me sitting
on the sideline.
Yeah, sideline, just hanging out. And all of a sudden, Chris Dolman, he like breaks the shoelace. And Paul Wiggins turns back and looks at me and goes, it was like in slow motion, "I need a defensive lineman." And I'm like, swallow my throat. I walk up, and he grabs me, and he tilts me to one side, tilts me to the other side, because he was looking for somebody else. And he goes, "There's nobody else." And he looks at me, and he goes, drops his head and goes, "Go in the game." So I'm going in the game, looking back like, he's going to call me back. He's going to call me back. I know he is. He's got to. So I go in the huddle, and Carl Lee, Henry Thomas, they all take out their mouthpiece and goes, "What in the F are you doing here?" I don't know. Man, you talking about an awkward moment.
Oh my God.
But this is God honest truth. I'm in there, and all of a sudden he says, it's third down. He goes, "Hey, it's going to be passed." I'm all right. So I got my mouthpiece, and I'm not saying a word. I'm just, and I line up over this guy named Ron Heller, who was left tackle.
Oh, yeah.
And man, all of a sudden that ball hiked, and it was like, and even in my mind today, it was like slow motion. I'm going around a corner, and I just duck my shoulder, turn left, turn up, and I can see Randall Cunningham holding his ball. Man, I reach out, knock the ball out of his hand, and all of a sudden, while this play was going on, everything was quiet. And as soon as I hit Randall, everything just, oh. and I could breathe, and I'm celebrating, and Chris Doman is talking to me, and I can't hear a word. I'm just like, he's like pointing like, get out, get out. And that was my only play. I got in that game. I went to the sideline, and William Kursky and I was just looking at each other. I'm like, I got a sack on Monday Night Football. I'm like, I'm done. I don't need to play no more football. But that would happen to me, my first sack.
And there you go. From that point on, you go 14 seasons. You play for the Vikings for 10 of those, I believe. You end up in Seattle. You make Pro Bowls. You accomplish all of these things as an undersized, undrafted football player. How in the world, as you look back now, how does that sink in for you? That all of this has happened to you in your life, and it all started in Mumford, Texas, in a small house with no air conditioning, and here you are today.
It still hasn't. To me, my life feels as if it's a dream, and I think it's a dream that every kid in America wants, to where you all of a sudden decide to do something, and when there are obstacles in your way, you keep going. And I'm a spiritual guy, so I grew up going to church and stuff, and so I think in a lot of ways, my guardian angel, I don't know if it's my uncle or my mom, have always been there, and it has pushed me to always say work hard, and whatever happens, happens. And I'm still that way. Now I'm retired from the NFL, but now I work for the NFL, and I've been working for the NFL for 12 years, and they give me awards called the Most Award because I just don't do just the average. I find ways to do more and more. And because I believe your legacy is playing football, then there's another legacy off the field. But I just think it's a dream. And that like there's an alarm clock that's gonna go off.
And you're gonna wake up.
I'm gonna wake up and I'm back in Mumford, Texas, still like 12 years old or 14 years old, going, man, what if I could have had that? Because it's been an amazing ride. And my wife, she's from Minnesota, so we talk about all the time about the difference between Minnesota and Texas, and we'll be talking about something, and it'll just remind me of where I grew up, where in our refrigerator we had these gallon jugs, empty milk containers, where we put water in, and we had one sleeve of ice cubes was a metal tray. And I used to sit at the house, and I'm like, man, we used to have ice cubes in there. Now we got automatic ones, and I'm like, man, people would have paid money to have this. And, we're sitting by the pool in the backyard, and I'm like, I'm joking with them, but I'm talking about like the Beverly Hillbillies. I'm like, we got a cement pond. This is a cement pond, man. And a lot of ways, I think I'll become like Jed Clampett in a way, where I just sit on my front porch and just go, man,
how did I get here?
Yeah, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And from Texas to Minnesota, and I've had this question asked by Bruce Smith, Thurman Thomas, Barry Sanders, Troy Aikman, Trent Dilfer. Go, why do you live in Minnesota? I said, because all my dreams have come true in Minnesota. Why would I want to leave?
Yeah.
I said, I've got my family, I've got my friends, and the friends I have were people, all walks of life in this great state. And man, it's given me so much, but I'm just amazed what you can accomplish by putting in hard work and making a few sacrifices and just putting yourself in, saying, hey, you know what? I don't care what anybody says. There's going to be people who are going to say negative things to you and whatever. Man, I just smile because you can't make me feel down because I've got so much.
So let's play on that theme just quickly. Minnesota high school football players and coaches are watching this. There are undersized football players in every school hoping to someday play even just college football at Division III. Being someone who has been undersized and make it to the highest peak of your NFL journey, your football journey, what advice, what would you tell players who aren't quite 6'5"? You know, they're not that prototypical lineman, whatever it might be. What's your best advice? What should they focus on?
First thing, what made a difference for me was learning a technique. As for a defensive lineman, an offensive lineman, first thing, learn a technique, because technique it's what's going to be. It's almost, for a football player, technique is like college. Like, you get your degree, it's always going to be with you. And technique is when you're tired, you still rely on your technique. And for me, being undersized, I don't. That word doesn't even. I think it doesn't. Shouldn't use it, because you got guys like Aaron Donald, same size as me.
Yeah.
And all these guys now, they come up to me and thanking me for believing in myself to play the game at my size.
Right.
And so your technique is the first thing to have. Second is to say to yourself, when you choose this, believe in it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't succeed. It's all about hard work and sacrifices. And the sacrifices, I mean, when your friends want to go out and party or go and drink, you got to say to yourself, you're going to put all your effort into this.
Yeah.
And to me, it's part of your journey in life. You don't know where that journey is going to take you, because I didn't know I was going to come to Minnesota, but that's about believing in your journey and focusing and putting everything into it and just enjoying the ride, because you never know where it's going to take you, but it's going to take you someplace. And I find myself now, man, 56 years old, talking about this with guys who are coming into the league, because I'm the mentor for the NFL Combine. And I go there every year, and I'm talking with these college guys from all over the country, and they're saying the same thing, like, what should I focus on? I'm like, focus on your technique and push yourself. You don't know where it's going to take you. It may take you to being the next Hall of Famer. It may take you to being the next NFL coach. But you got to believe in yourself and follow your dream. And don't let nobody tell you you're not from the right town, you're not the right height, you're not the right size, you don't have two parents, or you have two moms for parents, or you have one dad or whatever. You can accomplish anything by starting with hard work and believing in yourself and doing it every day. You just don't know where it's going to take you, but it's going to take you some places that you're going to be amazed by. I mean, I can personally say I'm just amazed by all the different places, countries I've been, by all of a sudden coming out of high school when everybody was telling me, you shouldn't try this college thing.
Yeah.
You just need to stay around here, get you a job being a trash man, and call it quits. But for me, believing in myself and going for it, I wish I would have had more confidence at an early age, that I probably would have been even a better player in high school, but I didn't. But that's, for me to say to someone, just believe in yourself, never doubt yourself, and just go with it.
It's the best advice that we could probably give any high school football player out there. John, I wish I had more time. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate you telling your football story, so that hopefully it will resonate out there with players and coaches. Thanks to John, and we'll be right back. My thanks to John Randle. We could have kept talking forever because he's got so many great stories, and hopefully we'll get John back at some point. High school football practice begins on August 12th, so we're still a ways away, 2 to 3 weeks away from players taking the field. So this is a time where players have kind of a gut check. What did I do in the off season? Did I do enough to get myself ready? And if I did do enough, then obviously they're excited to get on the football field come August 12th. When I played back in 1974, 75, 76, we had 3-a-day practices. Now in Minnesota, they have 2-a-days, but still, that's a lot of football, and it's a lot of excitement for both the players and the coaches as the coaches now try to figure out what kind of team do they have coming back for this year. Next week, as we begin the month of August, my guest will be Vikings linebacker Blake Cashman, who was a multi-state football champion at Eden Prairie High School. And we're going to talk quarterbacks next week with Nick Kinsey of Stillwater and Mason West of Edina, two junior sensations who are being recruited hard in the state of Minnesota, being recruited Division I to play college football. That's next week on the Shaver Prep Football Podcast. For producer Alex Haugen and the great folks here at Talk North. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.